Hey peeps, welcome to another video. Today it is a rant, open letter, comparison review video for the big four patterns. So Vogue, Butterick, McCalls, Simplicity. I have worked with New Look once, and Quick Sew I've never sewn from, so I couldn't speak to those. But the Vogue, McCalls, Butterick, Simplicity patterns I've worked with quite frequently for the last couple of years now, 7 years, and I want to start by saying I absolutely love them. I love the designs, I love that they are inexpensive-ish if you can get them from America. I love that they do a variety of different styles and releases throughout the year. I very much enjoy working with them now that I've worked out how to work with them, and this is my complaint. The pattern envelopes are lying. They are complete and utter fibs, total fibs, and there's not enough information for a new sewer or even an experienced sewer to really kind of get an accurate idea of what they're buying when they buy the envelope as is. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell, but I'm filming this much later on in the day, but somebody's made a really good point on today's waffle that the pattern envelope as it stands is literally just a guide. It is a guide to get you started on getting a great fitting dress. It's not going to guarantee you a great fitting dress. One of the things that I would like them to change is all the information on the outside to give you a better guide to a starting point for a great fitting dress. So yeah, I thought I ought to come on and just quickly make that point, because it is very important to realize that the numbers are arbitrary and they mean nothing in relation to sizes. They are just a way of distinguishing between the difference in increments of the patterns, and they are literally to give you a starting point to get your dress to fit you the way you want to. The envelope is literally just a guide. I think it could be a better guide, but it is just a guide. So yeah, somebody mentioned that in today's waffle and I thought it was a really good point, so I wanted to come back on and just film this really quickly to add this into the video. Now, I've done the comparison video with the McCalls 7974. I love this dress. I've made this dress 5 times now. One of the first things that I do in all of my sew-alongs is work out which pieces I need to trace and then what size I need to trace. I've been sewing with these patterns long enough that I know that I can fit into the smaller size bundle because of the amount of arbitrary ease that gets added to these patterns. So the lady on the envelope, she has ease in her dress. She would say, I would say she has the same amount of ease in her dress that I have achieved with the dress that I've made. There isn't 3.5, 4 inches of ease around her bust, and there isn't 3.5, 4 inches of ease around her waist. The hips are slightly less problematic because it is a very full skirt, but the garment that the model's wearing on the envelope fits her well. Now, I know that the garments on the envelopes are probably not made for the individual models. They are probably made as a straight standard size 10, 8, 6, 14, I don't know, but they're probably just made as a straight standard size, whatever it is. Then when they come to do the photo shoots, they are put onto a model that fits them best. It looks great on her. It looks really good on her. It does. But there is absolutely no chance that it has the wearing ease that the pattern envelope would tell you to put into your garment so that you end up with the same looking dress. So my bugbear is that they do put the finished garment measurements into the pattern, but they put them on the pattern tissue paper, which you don't get to look at until you've bought the pattern. And there is room on the back of the envelope for them to put all the finished garment measurements on. There is room. And if there isn't room, or if printing costs too much more to add that extra information to the back of the envelope, there's a website. Now, Elena did point out to me that some of the newer patterns that have been released do have some of the finished garment measurements on them, but the McCalls 7974 isn't one of those. I went and I looked and I videoed myself looking and sent it to Elena, and I was just like, they ain't here, am I missing this? And she checked on both her laptop and her phone, and yeah, the finished garment measurements were not on there for the 7974, which is an older pattern. It was released a couple of years ago. The finished garment measurements that they have on some of the other patterns, they aren't all of them, and I need to see what the upper bicep measurement is, because that's actually where I struggle to fit into even a size 14 for me. And as I say, I only buy the smaller size bundle because I know that I can pretty much fudge it so that I get away with that. But I want the finished bicep measurement, I want the bust measurement, I want the waist measurement, I want the hip measurement. What they do give us is like the base of the neck to the hem measurement, or the hem circumference. So both of those by themselves are not helpful. in total, yes please, I'll have them. The hem circumference, that allows you to, if you need to buy bias binding, work out that, okay, it's going to be 6 meters around the hem, I need 6 meters of bias binding. The length from the nape of the neck to the hem of the garment, less helpful and completely unhelpful by itself. I want all of those other measurements that I've mentioned, because when you're making a garment, you don't get to try it on first. You have to put in all the effort to make the thing, to find out if the thing fits you. Now obviously you can do toiles, you can do wearable muslins, you can measure your patterns and things like that, but I think that the pattern company should be giving us the information ahead of time to allow us to make choices about how we want our garments to fit. Fit is an incredibly personal thing. I personally like my garments to be very fitted. I like them to very snugly skim at my curves. I like loads of wearing ease around my waist. I prefer a much more snug fit around my waist. I am an hourglass shape. I like to accentuate that. I do want to make my butt look bigger because it makes my waist look smaller, and I don't mind adding volume on my shoulders up here because again this enhances the illusion of my hourglass shape, and I like as much, you know, I like it to be as fitted at the waist as possible. And if I buy a dress like the 7974, I want it to be fitted at the waist. Now when I first made this dress, as I say, the sew along, I always tell you to iron your pattern tissue flat, write down the pattern pieces that you're going to want to trace so that you don't miss any, ask me how I know, and then work out which size you do from the finished garment measurements printed on the tissue. The majority of the pattern envelopes put me as a size 16 for the bust, 14 for the waist, and a 20 to 22 for the hips. I generally fit into a size 14 bust, 10, sometimes 8 at the waist, and then a 14 at the hips for the type of garments that I like. As you guys know, I very rarely, if ever, make fitted skirts because I just don't like that shape on me anymore. I used to wear it all the time, but I just don't like it anymore. I prefer much fluffier skirts. Ease of fitting for one thing, and because again it enhances the illusion that I have big hips and big butt to make my waist look smaller. I have to get the tissue out, iron it flat, and find the finished garment measurements on the tissue paper to work out which size that I want to trace. When I first made this pattern, I complained about it being very cleavage-tastic. So this one I've actually raised up this point here by 3 inches, and I love it. It's still cleavage-tastic, there's still a lot of cleavage on show, but I can wear the balconette bras that I like and not have them show through my dress with, you know, like just there, hello, this is my underwear. And I had a few people comment and say that if I had made the size that the envelope recommended and not the size that I made, then I wouldn't have had that problem, that the dress would have fitted me better and it wouldn't have been so cleavage-tastic. And I just thought, you know what, no, that's not right. And it put this thing in my mind, and I was like, you know what, I am going to make up the size that the envelope says, and I am going to do that in calico and just show that the size that the envelope says that I should be, the 16 at the bust, 14 at the waist, and 20 at the hips, will not look good on me. It just won't look good on me. That idea kind of morphed, and I went looking for some inexpensive fabric that I liked, and I found this viscose from the textile centre, bought 9 meters of it, and I have made 2 dresses. And I have made this dress that I'm wearing, which is the size that I think I should have, so size 14 at the bust, 10 at the waist, and 10 at the hips actually, because the amount of ease in it, the fullness of the skirt allows for that. And then I also made this dress, and this is the size that the envelope tells me that I should make. So it's a size 16 bust, 14 at the waist, and a 14 at the hips. I have done a side-by-side comparison of what these dresses look like on me. So as you can see, the size 16 bust, 14 waist isn't bad, but there are a few issues with the fit on this one. The shoulders on this are sitting a good inch and a half off my actual shoulder point. They are way too big. Somebody told me that the measurement on the back of the pattern is actually the upper bust measurement, not the full bust measurement, and that's what you should go by. I have no idea if this is correct or not, and I'm not saying that the person that told me this is lying. I'm just saying I don't know about this. I've been sewing for what, 8 years properly now, and that's the first that I've heard about it in 8 years. And if that is the case, put up a bust on the envelope, because it says bust. There's plenty of room for upper bust, plenty. So yeah, the shoulders didn't fit on this one. The other bugbear I have is lengthen and shorten lines. If they include them, brilliant. And if you don't include them, do, because for goodness sake, not everybody is 5'6" or whatever length you draft your block for. I always have to add an inch of length, and if you haven't put a lengthen and shorten line in, I have to make it up. And so far it's not been too bad, but there are certain patterns that you're just like, where the hell should I do this? So for this one, for me, I actually add the length in the upper bodice, because when I made it this way and added the length in the midriff, which is where the pattern has the lengthen and shorten lines, it ended up really weirdly proportioned, and I ended up with this seam running right the way through my bust, nearly at the apex of my bust, and it was just like, that's not a good look. So think about where you put your lengthen and shorten lines, not just for convenience sake in the, you know, like an easy part. Put them where they are actually useful. I mean, I appreciate that for me they're useful in the upper bust, and then for other people they might be useful elsewhere, but I do think that the proportions on this dress have massively been thrown out by lengthening this part, not this part. The bust is too big on this, the waist is way too big on this. So the size 16 tells me that I'm going to have a 41-inch finished bust measurement with this dress. My bust measurement is 38 inches, so that gives me 3 inches of wearing ease. I think there's more than that in this, and I haven't measured this lying flat because I don't want to get even more angry with this, because I feel that this isn't going to turn out actually bigger than they say. The waist is for the size 14, which is on the pattern for a 28-inch waist, which is what mine is at the moment. It's fluctuating between sort of 27 to 29, but split the difference, 28 inches. The finished garment measurement for the waist of the size 14 is 31 inches, which is 3 inches of wearing ease. And again, I think there's more like 6 in this. But when I made this dress and put it on, and I featured it in the waffle, lots of people said that it kind of looked frumpy. It was kind of like ready to wear, and I mean, this is one of the reasons I got into sewing, is because I would buy ready to wear clothes that would fit the largest part of me and then try and make the rest work, and they never did, and they did look not great. It looked meh on me. So I mean, this is not a bad dress, and again, fit is a very personal issue. If you like looser fitting garments, you do you. I'm not saying that everybody has to have tightly fitted garments the way that I prefer. What I am saying is that the pattern envelope should allow me to make this dress, and whilst I've made this dress in style lines, I have not made this dress in fit. There is absolutely zero chance that this lady has 3, 4, if not 6 inches of wearing ease at her waist. I kind of want to measure this flat now and just see how big it is around the waist. I probably should do that, shouldn't I? 2 secs. Laying this flat, and I haven't laid it out completely flat, I've measured it from side seam to side seam, laid flat with the button done up. This is actually 34 inches at the waist. I've sewn this with the correct seam allowance. 34 inches at the waist when it said it was going to be 31. So that is already adding an extra 3 inches of ease. That's 6 inches of ease over what I need at my waist. And I'm sorry, but this lady does not have 6 inches of ease at her waist. She doesn't. This is my issue. I want this dress. I want to make this dress. And if I was new to sewing, I probably wouldn't have picked this pattern, because it's not, I mean, it's not difficult, but it's also not, I mean, it says it's easy. The instructions are good, but you know, there's buttonholes and like fiddly bits in this, so I wouldn't have picked this pattern for a brand new sewist. I've had so many people comment and tell me that they are fed up of making something and it coming out way too big on them, and they don't understand what they're doing wrong, because they are following the pattern instructions and they are using the sizing that the pattern says that they should, and they're ending up with something that doesn't look like what it does on the front of the envelope. So it does have the finished bust measurements on the back of this one, brilliant, for the bust. It also has the hips, it doesn't have the waist, and then it has the back of the back length from base of neck, which again, not that helpful. I mean, if you're depending on what length of dress you want to make, it could be helpful, but it's the length from the base of the neck to the hem, and what you really need, because there is a waist seam, is the length from the base of the neck to the waistline. We don't need the rest of it. We can work out how long we want the skirt and we can adjust accordingly. So it does have some information on there, but it doesn't have all the information on there. What I want is the size that the model's wearing and her measurements. And what I really want is for them to stop adding arbitrary ease into things. I mean, I made a 8145 top, and it had 7.5 inches of ease at the waist for a fitted waist on a knit garment. and it was just the amount of, I mean, I ended up making a size 6, which was for a 23-inch waist. I don't have a 23-inch waist. That's madness. Utter madness. It's frustrating. It's really, really frustrating. I think it's mad as well that the finished garment measurements are on the back of this but not on the website. I do think that's funny. But yeah, so actually looking at this, the size 14 for a 36-inch bust, the size 14 gives you a 39.5 finished garment measurement, which is the size that I've done for this one, and I think that fits really nicely. I have an inch and a half of ease around my bust, and I can button this up. None of the buttons are gaping. There is still more than enough room. I think there's probably more than an inch and a half in there, but this fits well. The shoulders fit well on this one. The waist fits well. You know, it skims. Especially with button-up dresses, you really don't want button-up dresses to be so tight because the buttons will gape. That's not a good look. When we talk about ease, there is a difference. There is wearing ease, which is the minimum amount of ease that needs to be put into a garment so that you can physically wear it. Because if you had something that was skin tight, you could put it on, zip it up, and then you couldn't move. So wearing ease is literally that. You need to be able to move in your garment. You need it to conform to your figure as you go about your day. Design ease is a very different thing, and you add design ease literally for the aesthetic of the thing. So I would say on this there is minimal design ease around the waist. There is some. It skims and fits her. This dress fits her fairly well given that it wasn't specifically made for her. But if you're new to sewing and you're doing as the envelope tells you, and you're looking at the body measurements, the size that you should make, and you make it and you end up with a dress that fits like this, if I hadn't have known any better, I'd be really disappointed and wonder what the hell I did wrong. Why does this dress not look like this dress? So I know Mimi G has gone on board with Vogue Butterick McCall's Simplicity. I know that she also has stated issues with pattern envelopes and the amount of information given on them, and she is trying to make them more transparent and more informative so that we can all have a better sewing experience, and that is amazing because it's needed. It's absolutely needed. And again, I will say I love. I mean, McCalls is my favourite. I love the Big Four. I make them frequently. I mean, I have a lot of their patterns. I have a lot of their patterns. One of the things that I get commented on my videos quite frequently is how people like how things fit, or how I tweak things to get them to fit me. And that's just been you know, I've ended up being able to do that through years of like trial and error and working things out. When I first started sewing, I had zero idea about the back of the envelope. I didn't read the pattern instructions like I do now, and I kind of thought that the number at the top was in relation to your ready-to-wear size, your high street size. When I made garments previously, this is probably 12 years ago now, 10, 11, 12 years ago now, I cut out a size 8, made it up, and it fit me. And I got really lucky because I completely ignored the measurements on the back here. Didn't even glance at those, just made a straight size 8, and because of the amount of ease that they'd built in, it actually fit me really well. Back then I had a 36-inch bust, so I should have been doing a size 14. So, you know, I got lucky the first couple of times. I didn't even know about finished garment measurements being printed on tissue patterns, and I can't remember where I found that out, and I don't know if it was me noticing it or if it was somebody telling me. I cannot remember where I found out about the finished garment measurement being printed on the tissue paper, but that is what I use for choosing my sizes now. I've ended up with, I think, nicely fitting garments for the most part. I mean, this one here, the pattern says that I should do a size large, and I've done a size small, and I think it fits me really well. So it's one of those things that I have trial and errored over the years, experimented and worked out what my preferred fit is, and then known where to find the knowledge to get that fit from these patterns. The pattern envelope has a certain amount of information on it, and actually this one does have some finished garment measurements on it, but it doesn't have all of them, and I want all of them. I want to be able to make an informed decision about what I am going to be sewing. So my request to McCalls, Vogue, Butterick, Simplicity and the rest is finished garment measurements, please, all of them. not just a random arbitrary few, but all of them on the back of the envelope. And if you haven't got room or it costs too much to print it on the back of the envelope, please put it on your website. All of them, not just a few. We want all of the measurements. We want the bicep measurement, we want the bust measurement, we want the waist measurement, we want the hip measurement, we want the length of the garment from base of neck to waist, we want it from base of neck to hem. If you're going to give us the circumference of the skirt, fabulous, especially if it's a full skirt, so we can buy the right amount of bias binding. But we don't want just that, or just the length from the nape of the neck to the hem. We want all of those measurements on the envelope so that we can make an informed decision. Also, let us know what size you've put on your model and what her measurements are, because I bought this pattern to make this dress, and I have made this dress by ignoring your size recommendations. Your size recommendations did not give me this dress. Again, the fit of your clothes is totally personal, and this is not a bad dress. It's just not a dress that fits me the way I want it to, and it's not this dress on the envelope. It's just not. Please, 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 please give us this information and make your envelopes far more transparent. That would be awesome. Thank you. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. Could you see the difference between the two dresses? Would you have been happy ending up with a dress that fitted like this, having bought an envelope that looked like this? Also, let me know in the comments down below if there's any other information that you would like to see on the pattern envelopes or websites. What kind of information would you like? Because, I mean, I've stated what I want, but I might have missed something else. So let me know in the comments down below if there's anything else that you think should be added to pattern envelopes, because fingers crossed, fingers crossed, things will be changing. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!